Major funding provided by the St. Johns River Water Management District with assistance from the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, the Florida Department of Education, and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection.
This is a story of America's first river. Before English or Spanish was spoken here, people lived on its banks. Before man, huge prehistoric animals walked its shores. Before history was recorded, civilization flourished here. It was called the River of Lakes by the Seminole Indians, the River of Currents by the Spanish, the River of May by the French. Today, it is known as Florida's St. Johns River. Explorer aquanauts Wes Skiles, Jill Heinerth, and Tom Morris, they have taken up a quest to follow the journey of water all over our planet. They have traveled below the ground to trace the connective path of water through the landscape. They have chased the ocean's flow through melting icebergs. Now they're looking at a totally different challenge, trying to help people understand their connection to a modern river running right through the middle of urban America. Join a team of scientists and modern explorers on a journey of discovery as they travel to the source of the great St. Johns River to see man's impacts and find out what is being done to protect this river for generations to come. Many great rivers start high in the mountains. The St. Johns River is somewhat unique in that it gathers its waters from a wide expanse. The river is born from a vast marsh just north of the Everglades, and further downstream, large springs, lakes, and tributaries contribute to its flow. And like many rivers on our planet, it winds its way through great cities, backyards, and industries, finally joining the sea east of Jacksonville. It flows south to north. Its entire 310-mile length has been designated an American Heritage River. The journey begins at the mouth of the river on the Mayport Ferry.
Mile marker 1. We're beginning our journey on the St. Johns with the smell of the ocean in the air. I'm really excited to be hooking up with the rest of the team and starting our journey upstream.
More than 50 people will be helping the expedition leaders with everything from camera equipment to camping gear. In total, the river flotilla will include 2 riverboats, 2 skiffs, 2 canoes, 5 kayaks, 3 airboats. And to address the issue of seeing the river from a high vantage point, they come up with a unique solution.
All right, Bob, you're on my wing.
Pilots Ron Thorstad and Bob Tillman join the convoy with their peculiar flying inflatable boats, FIBs for short.
They shouldn't be too far up ahead now.
Part boat, part plane, these unusual hybrids will allow the team to take to the air at a moment's notice.
Should get everybody on board now and we're ready to go.
They thread their way upstream, passing through Jacksonville. It is a city of more than 1 million people, and the river is why this city became a city. Just south of Jacksonville, they enter a stretch of the river where scientists have been tracking high levels of pollution. River systems like the St. Johns receive much of their waters from creeks and streams that run through every aspect of our lives. These tributaries carry with them runoff contaminants that wreak havoc on life within the river, and create potentially serious health issues for the public.
This is Tri-County Ag. Let's get the FIDs ready.
Environmental scientist Pam Livingston Way joins biologist Tom Morris. They paddle upstream to the source of the pollution.
So Deep Creek is one of the hot spots as far as tributaries that take a lot of nutrients to the St. Johns River. It's draining many, many acres of potato fields and cabbage fields here in the Hastings area.
One of the greatest boons to mankind was the introduction and widespread use of chemical fertilizers. With such fertilizers, farmers can grow more crops and feed millions of people. But for the river, there is a downside. Agriculture and urban runoff, leaky septic systems, and sewage discharges share something in common. They all deliver nutrients and organic substances which act as powerful fertilizers. Much of it ends up in the river, causing algae to grow very quickly. When runoff goes unmanaged, it can trigger algae blooms. Algae blooms block out the sun, causing underwater grasses to die. Without grasses, underwater creatures that use them for food, shelter, and spawning die. Birds and animals that rely on them for food have less to eat. Decomposing algae uses up oxygen in the water. Without enough oxygen in the water, more organisms die off. A growing population speeds up eutrophication by increasing the amount of harmful substances like fertilizers that soak into the ground and reach the river. Pam works with farmers, manufacturers, and state agencies to develop best management practices, or BMPs, to help manage that runoff.
So we've gone from Deep Creek right up into Canal Number 1, and you can see the obvious problems here. I mean, and this is what we're trying to treat with our wetland treatment and our pond.
The idea is to capture runoff and direct it into a series of settling ponds.
So Tom, this is our 19-acre wet retention pond. It has about 37 days of residence time.
After water leaves the retention pond, it enters the wetland marsh, where other contaminants are absorbed by plants and trees. And the runoff returns to the river cleansed.
You know, farmers are in business because they love farming. They care about the land, they care about what they're doing, and I'm of the personal belief that there's a lot of culture in the word agriculture, and I think we need to keep that here in Florida.
Other best management practices have been designed to give farmers economical ways to conserve resources while protecting their investment. New slow-release fertilizers are one of the most promising recent developments.
So what's great about this controlled release technology is it's engineered, these prills are engineered to release as the plant needs it over the season. And so if it's releasing as the plant needs it, that means there's less in the environment that has the potential to leach into the watershed.
This is really an excellent project. We need more of this kind of stuff in our agricultural areas to keep those nutrients on the agricultural fields and out of places like the St. Johns River.
But what few people realize is that much of the contamination does not come from farms. Instead, it is coming from our manicured lawns and businesses. Ponce de Leon searched Florida in pursuit of the fountain of youth, and that quest still attracts explorers today.
So we're finally here in the land of the springs, Tom.
Yeah, my favorite part of the river, these middle reaches.
Springs are usually among the purest sources of fresh water in the world, but this spring is different. Instead of pure fresh water, Silver Glen Springs pumps out brackish water. It is an underwater oasis, salty enough to support ocean life in the middle of a freshwater river. The cave diving team will attempt what few others have accomplished: a scientific dive to carry a special probe that will profile the unique water chemistry found here. Their data will reveal an important picture of the aquifer and shed light on the source of elevated salt levels in the spring. Underwater, they encounter proof of the elevated levels of salt emerging from deep within the aquifer. normally found only in salt water. Blue crabs and stingrays are found here year-round.
Okay, Tom, I got you on comms. Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
From the start, the going is tough. The divers face a current the equivalent of hurricane-force winds. Only it isn't wind, but millions of gallons of water trying to push them back.
Well, Jill, we're gonna have to work hard getting in here today.
The flow is so intense, the divers approach their penetration more like rock climbers, relying on handholds to make forward progress.
I have to wedge myself every inch of the way.
For 40 years, scientists have studied the water at the mouth of the spring. But the divers know there are multiple sources of water, fresh and brackish, that are being mixed together when they come to the surface. Their goal is to be the first people to locate and measure the chemistry at these unique vents.
Hey, Jill, the line is busted up ahead.
Man.
While exploring this cave, Tom had laid a safety line to find his way out of the darkness. Vitally important to the safety of these divers, that line has been ripped away by the current. They are now forced to find their route through the crisscrossing tunnels while laying new guidelines. Progress is slow, but they press on through the blackness.
These masts are leaking pretty bad in this strong flow.
After over 1 hour of agonizingly slow progress, it's like the eye of the hurricane. The current eases, the floor drops away, and they enter a room of dramatic proportions.
Wow. What an amazing room. You could fit a 10-story building in here.
Florida's geologic history is a story of the evolution of the ocean. The fossilized deposits that were laid down over time are revealed here for the divers to see.
Incredible.
Jill carries a probe capable of collecting a variety of real-time data on salinity, temperature, depth, conductivity, and pH.
Wow, there's a bunch of vents.
The divers think that they will find the oldest and saltiest water from the deepest vents.
All right, I got us at 137 feet.
The gathered data reveals that the waters mixed here have very different histories. The fresh water pumping out of the spring is around 30 years old.
Yeah, this is that bigger one that's got saltier water coming out of it. Get that baby well up into the vent.
Okay, I'm with you.
But isotope dating of the relic seawater revealed that it was between 13,000 and 18,000 years old.
Okay, I got the sample, Tom.
When sea levels fell during the last ice age, the Floridan aquifer was flooded with seawater, and some of that water remains trapped within pockets in the rock.
Okay, good. We got what we're after. Let's get out of here. It's a long way back to that entrance.
Yeah, it'll be a quick trip, though.
Time is pressing on. They must adhere to strict air rules that reserve 2/3 of their gas for the exit from the cave.
Jill, make sure you get centered on this little tunnel because that current's going to shoot you like a bullet down a gun barrel.
Their next destination, a first magnitude spring at the center of the dialogue that will help define the delicate balance between the needs of society and the needs of local watersheds and the wildlife within them. Along the eastern shore, they arrive at Blue Spring. The West Indian manatee makes these springs its winter home. Manatees can weigh in excess of 3,000 pounds, and their closest relative is the elephant. Mothers nurse their young for a long period, and the calf may remain dependent on its mother for up to 2 years. Researchers believe this mother-child bond continues for much of the manatee's life.
Well, it's within this spring that one of our biggest debates in Florida is growing. It pits the use of water by society against the need of water by our natural ecosystems.
Manatees have no natural predators, but are still an endangered species. Because of the effect man has had on their habitat, there are fewer than 3,000 West Indian manatees left in the United States. Springs get their water from relatively local sources known as spring sheds, fed by local rains. Groundwater that is pumped out of the ground for development is water that will no longer reach the springs and river. In order to sustain both the habitat and a reasonable amount of development, a strategy called minimum flows and levels is recommending limits on the withdrawal of groundwater. If the limits are maintained, development and the manatee should be able to coexist in harmony.
We've been looking at and trying to protect primarily those areas that are directly associated with the river. And that may be a little bit like looking at what's coming out of the end of the pipe. Maybe it's time we start looking at what's going into the pipe. I think we need to go upland into the tributaries, which are really the lifeblood of the entire river.
They are traveling upstream on the Wekiva River. Despite the fact that the Wekiva is the best protected tributary along the entire St. John system, it's what's upstream in the watershed that really matters.
This is pretty spectacular. It's hard to believe we're practically in the backyards of Orlando here.
Yeah, is that little tributary you were talking about up this way?
Yeah, let's check it out. See how far we can get into the development.
People who live along this tributary no doubt love the natural beauty in their backyard, but unknowingly, their actions can threaten it.
Well, plus all those lawns that people are fertilizing and throwing pesticides on right up there. I mean, that's washing directly in here, and this is a direct conduit to the St. Johns River.
Like the farmers downstream, the people who live here need to stop the unregulated runoff of pollutants. Fertilizers make their lawns grow, but can be bad for the river. Tom and Jill have explored tributaries around the world.
Watch your step here, Jill. There's a lot of rocks.
But never one like this.
Wow, this is really different.
This is different.
You know, just about every urban creek is plumbed through culverts and channels like this.
Careful there, Jill. It's real slippery.
No kidding. Uh-oh.
All right.
They're traveling through a complex grid of stormwater drains that help safeguard communities from flooding. These concrete conduits have replaced the natural filtration network that used to convey water to the aquifer and local creeks. They carry breathing gear in case of toxic fumes and will have radio contact with the surface. It's team member Simon Mansis' job to follow their exploits from topside.
Jill, is this you down here?
Yeah, people don't realize that everything that comes off of the roads and highways ends up down here in these pipes and eventually in the creeks and rivers and tributaries. Oh, look at this up here, Tom. There's some really neat formations. It looks just like a real cave.
That's brimstone.
Yeah, it sure is.
It's picking up calcium somewhere, either out of the pipe itself or up above, and it's forming little stalactites. So there's life in the old drainage pipe. Jill, did you bring a watch with you?
Yeah.
How long have we been down here?
Oh, a couple hours. We've gone a good mile at least.
Hello, Jill, do you copy?
You can climb up to the radio?
Well, let me just call him first. Hey, Simon. Simon, this is Jill. I seem to be really close to a roadway because I hear a lot of cars. Can you see us?
I'm underneath the big crate, the rectangular one.
Okay, this could be it right here. Let's see. Hold on, do you see me?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah, I see ya.
Hello, Simon.
Hey, how's the weather down there?
Cool.
A little wet, a little cool, but we're getting a lot of runoff down here, that's for sure. So we're going to continue onwards from this point.
All right, well, I guess I'll see you at the next hole then.
Okay, Simon.
All right.
Here's another one.
Another intersection.
Oh man, it feels good to stand up. It's got a pretty good set of steps. I'm gonna...
You need to check it?
Yeah, let me see where we are.
Hello, Jill, Tom, do you copy? Oh, no, they're not down there. Jill, Tom, hello? Jill, Tom!
Hey, Simon. Simon. Whoa. Don't get run over.
Whoa. Color. Greenery. Blue sky.
People that live here are used to storm drains, but it's hard for them to imagine that they are part of a mighty river.
Why are you down in the sewer? I mean, rivers are usually...
Well, we really wanted to trace the source of the St. Johns River, and so we've been traveling the length of the river and trying to follow every little tributary to see how it connects to mankind.
Can you go by boat, or do you have to crawl?
Our boat's about a couple of miles that way.
And the headwaters are where?
Well, you know, in a way, this is a headwater. Rain that falls on this parking lot and on these streets comes rushing on down into these stormwater drains, and it's carried on down to a creek where we left our canoes a couple miles away, and then on down to the Wekiva River and all the way to the St. Johns. So it's hydrologically connected.
Is there some kind of a filtration system or anything that's...
You know, all that water that used to soak into the soil here doesn't do that anymore. It just runs off rapidly and down the pipes and out into the streams. Kind of funky in here, isn't it?
They're still not at the start of the tributary, so Tom and Jill go back underground.
Here it is, Jill, right at the end of the tunnel.
After many miles, they have finally reached one source of the St. Johns, and it isn't pretty.
Trapped behind shopping carts. Oh, man, it's gonna feel good to stand up. If I can stand up.
Wow.
All right, we're out. Well, what do you think?
You know, this is a prime example of how people just don't get it.
But it is not shopping carts and trash causing the problems. Individual homeowners fertilize their lawns, as do their neighbors and their neighbors' neighbors. Added together, tons of fertilizers soak into the ground and head to the lowest point, the river. This unrealized, cumulative impact is perhaps the biggest challenge facing rivers today. Our future also depends on developers and homeowner associations working together to adopt more eco-friendly bylaws instead of their old perceptions of a perfect yard. Having traveled over 170 miles, they reach the end of easily navigable waters.
We're at about mile marker 170. The river's 310, so we're a little over halfway of the journey at this point.
So I think, you know, what the strategy may be, based on the difficulty in navigation, is to get us as far as we can get, and then we'll downsize. We'll make our way south from there in smaller craft.
As eyes for their navigation, Wes and Bob take to the sky.
This is the only way to go, Captain Bob. The flying boats.
For the team to be successful, they will have to negotiate over 130 miles of shallow braided marsh. At speeds up to 50 miles per hour, they race south through a maze of lakes connected by a series of broad floodplains. In the early 1900s, this part of Florida held significant economic potential for farming. The only problem was the land was easily flooded by the constant fluctuations of the river. E. Nelson Fell, a New Zealander and engineer, saw the vast floodplain as wasted land that could be tamed. Attracting a small group of investors, he launched one of the largest individual drainage projects ever conceived. He built a fleet of enormous dredges and plows to drain the St. John's Marsh and convert it into farmland. When completed, he had transformed over 125 square miles and unknowingly cut off the headwaters of the river, forever altering the watershed. It was a time of industrial innocence when government, businesses, and citizens had little concept of environmental consequences. Hurricanes spawned public outcry for the federal government to take further flood control measures. The river lost much of its vitality and life, and polluted runoff began to heavily impact the river and marsh. In many ways, it's very similar to the challenges facing the Everglades. By the 1970s, scientists and environmentalists began to understand that the natural floodplain had to be restored.
Well, this is what we call a Farm 13 stick marsh, right in the middle of 150,000–160,000 acres of restoration, which really is the second largest restoration in the entire world right now. Only the Everglades rivals this in form and size.
Water from nearby citrus groves and livestock pastures is now discharged into large reservoirs which keep nutrient-rich runoff from directly entering the marsh. Local aquatic plants help metabolize nutrients and other waste found in the runoff. And that effort is breathing new life into the headwaters of the St. John's River. Water is once again cleansed as its sheet flows across the vast floodplain marshes. Lost habitat has been renewed, and fish and wildlife are returning.
Hey guys, we're at the coordinates that put us in the heart of the true headwaters of the St. John's.
The rain that falls here in the vast floodplain slowly moves down into the river watersheds, where it is joined by a magnificent maze of lakes and magical water welling up from the springs downstream.
This whole trip has just really turned me around again, really revitalized my whole spirit. I really love this river.
In this experience on the St. John's, I got a true sense of the three-dimensional qualities of this river and how it's fed by branches from underground and by branches and tendrils that reach way back into urban societies. And I started this journey thinking that we were going on a quest to find the true source of this river. And what I discovered is that that source is everywhere. It's in every home, it's in every development, it's through every person, and all of our actions have an influence on the water quality that we experience from this river.
The goal just simply has to be to lessen the impact we're having as humans on these environments, and we can do that. We really can. We can learn to use less fertilizers in our yards. We can use less water. We can be more conscientious of how we divert waters into these systems, and if we do these simple things, we can actually improve the water quality and improve the health of the entire river. It makes sense.
People will only protect what they love, and through understanding lies hope to return watersheds worldwide to more pristine days.
Major funding provided by the St. John's River Water Management District with assistance from the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, the Florida Department of Education, and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection.